Hello, my name is Alana Taylor. The incredible story you're about to hear is true. At first may not appear to be, and to tell you the truth, even though I actually experienced all of the events contained in this book, I still find myself wondering at times if it wasn't all a dream. However, it is during these times of doubt that I recall most vividly Talawanda's departing words. If it can't be experienced, it exists. You cannot experience something which doesn't exist. So it's up to you. As you read my story, decide for yourself if it's true, for only you can make that decision. As for myself, by the time you read these words, I shall be reunited with my eternal companion, Talawanda. Alana Taylor. Note from the author, Alana Taylor has not been seen or heard from since July 1981. On that day, we had finished compiling all the necessary materials for this book. It was a very special day for her. She seemed extremely happy, as though her work in this world had been completed. And this is her story, The Encounter, Chapter 1. July 1978, Los Angeles. I remember how it all started. I had a date with Walter, one of the architects at Lynch & Associates, where I worked as a secretary. Maybe I'm crazy, but Walter wasn't really a turn-on for me. Sure, he had a lot going for him, a nice house, a new car, good job. But he was still earthbound. He just wasn't Superman. See, I said I was crazy. Normally, I would not have gone out with Walter. However, he mentioned that he had a membership to the Magic Castle, and that there was going to be a rare performance given by an illusionist named Talawanda. Don't ask me how I knew, but something told me I had to see that performance. I was just putting the finishing touches on my makeup when Walter arrived promptly at 7 o'clock to pick me up at my apartment. We drove to a nearby restaurant where we enjoyed a leisurely meal until it was time to leave for the Magic Castle. Upon our arrival at the castle, we were cheerfully assisted from the car by a valet attendant. Proceeding to the lobby, we were greeted by the castle hostess, who politely inquired, "Good evening, are you members?" "Going on 4 years," Walter responded enthusiastically as he produced a membership card from his vest. The hostess smiled as she pressed a nearby button. Suddenly, the wall behind her slid open like a secret panel, permitting us to pass into the main ballroom. Our timing couldn't have been better. It was just a few moments before showtime. Then came his first miracle. Despite the new capacity crowd, we ended up in the center of the first row, directly in front of the stage. Walter immediately observed, "This Talawanda must be really something special. I've been here a number of times over the last 4 years, and I've never seen this much excitement from an audience in anticipation of any performance." An old man in the row behind us leaned forward in response to Walter's remark and commented, "That's because Talawanda has never performed for the public until tonight. He is considered a master magician and performs only for professional magicians. No one even knows where he comes from. They only know that he's the best. All of his tricks defy explanation. Why, I remember one time he..." Suddenly the words were interrupted as the ballroom lights rapidly dimmed, and the old man leaned back in the seat without finishing his statement. I could feel suspense in the air. It was like static electricity before a storm. The anticipation was torturing the crowd, and then, as if everyone had just received a radio signal from God to shut up, the audience became deathly silent. And then, to everyone's amazement, and especially mine, he appeared, but he didn't appear from behind the curtains. He rose from a seat right next to mine. No one had even noticed him sitting and waiting there. It was almost as though he had been invisible. As Talawanda walked confidently up the stairs and onto the stage, the audience exploded into thunderous applause. I'll never forget his godly appearance. He stood tall and confident, like a 5-star general, inspecting his troops. He had bright blue eyes and black hair, which was neatly slicked back like some high-fashion European model. Majestically, he raised his left hand to silence the crowd. It was then that he uttered the most startling challenge I had ever heard. "Those of you who are actually convinced that this would you live in is not an illusion, just stick around." He paused dramatically and said, "Most of you have never seen me before. I'm pleased that you're here. Thank you for coming. It is my hope that you may learn something this evening, not only about the world you live in, but about yourselves as well. For this world would not exist if it were not for you and your fellow beings. If I fail to teach you something tonight, I hope that I may at least entertain you. You've been promised a show, and a show you shall receive. Many of you are skilled magicians. I invite you to challenge me. With this, the crowd stirred with intense eagerness. One middle-aged professional magician stood up and admired Talawanda's unique approach. "Can you materialize a dollar bill from thin air?" the man inquired. Talawanda grinned. "Why not a $2 bill, my friend?" "Why not a $2 bill for all, my friends?" Talawanda smiled and paused. "Don't be timid," Talawanda commanded. "Inspect your new wealth." And as he said that, the crowd began to search their purses and pockets only to discover a nice, crisp $2 bill for everyone. The crowd rose to his feet and roared with applause. "How does he do it? He's absolutely amazing," voices from the crowd said. Talawanda quieted the audience and requested the next challenge. "I shall grant you 2 more illusions," Talawanda informed the audience. "Can you escape from these handcuffs of mine?" an eager man inquired as he held up a pair of police regulation handcuffs. Talawanda responded as the audience grew quiet once more. "My friends, I'm afraid you're really much more powerful than you ever imagined. You're truly magicians because you have succeeded in convincing even yourself that this world is not an illusion. Today you believe an illusion, such as those handcuffs, is capable of restricting you. You see, for me, this world is like a dream. That's the difference between you and me. I never took this illusion you call reality as seriously as you apparently have. While you were busy facing reality, I preferred to fabricate my own. While you were busy inventing interesting new handicaps to inflict upon yourself, I was watching from another universe. This is why I'm able to have things come and go as I please." As Talawanda finished his speech, the pair of handcuffs that the man was holding floated out of his hand and up towards the stage. The handcuffs stopped about 10 feet from the stage and hovered 4 feet off the ground. There they began to glow like burning coal and grew brighter and brighter until they shone like the noontime sun. And suddenly they were gone, totally vanished, and the audience went wild with applause. They stood and clapped for better than a minute, grew silent, eagerly waiting for the next trick. Talawanda laughed. "I hope you see the problem now. You become so lazy about creating your own illusions that now you depend upon excitement from a source other than yourself. No wonder you've lost your touch. No wonder you keep hanging on to this universe. You got nowhere to go. In any event, I owe you one last illusion for the evening. What shall it be?" Walter embarrassed me a little bit when he raised his hand. "Can you prove that your illusions are real?" Talawanda sighed. "My son, come forth, come on stage." Walter rose from his seat, proceeded up the stairs onto the stage as Talawanda directed. "My son, you asked for proof. That means you want to be convinced. I'm afraid you have been convinced enough already. You're convinced that you are mortal with no past lives? Well, that's the biggest joke of all. You're convinced that you're a body. You're convinced that because of that, you're stuck inside. You're convinced of all sorts of silly things like the floor is solid, or you need gas to run your car, or the world is dangerous. Remember, as a man thinketh, so it be unto him. Do you know what that means? It means that if you believe strong enough about something, it'll happen for you, and possibly for others too if your belief is strong enough. But instead of exercising your power of belief, you've allowed yourself to be convinced of a million things, and that's why you're in such trouble today. You don't even think your own personal illusions are real. In fact, modern humans define illusions as something which doesn't exist. You will soon discover the truth. An illusion is merely a creation. A creation is anything that can be sensed or experienced. It's that simple. People have this silly idea that their own dreams and fantasies aren't real or they don't exist. Nonsense. Naturally, you assume that your own illusions aren't real because they're not extremely vivid and solid. Your illusions aren't vivid and solid because you haven't been practicing. Your certainty and confidence is poor. Understand something very, very important. The physical universe is a universe constructed on a great deal of certainty. The objects, energy, all the other illusions that comprise the physical universe were recreated with tremendous confidence and certainty. That's the only difference between the illusions of this universe and your own illusions. Certainty. Never let anyone convince you that your own creations and fantasies aren't real. They are. They may not be extremely clear and vivid right now, but they do exist. Here's a very valuable piece of wisdom that you can pull out of doubt and confusion. If it can be experienced, it exists. You cannot experience something which doesn't exist. Something else you should know about are dreams. A dream is perfectly real, very convincing, and has full emotional impact on you as long as you are in it. The moment you wake up, you know the truth, that the dream was only an illusion. The same is true for the universe. It seems very real, it's very convincing, and it has lots of emotional impact. As long as you are in it. The minute you leave it, you know the truth, that the universe is like your dream. It's mere an illusion. And people are convinced that this universe can't be an illusion because it's so solid, so real, so difficult to control. And that's my point. They're convinced. So you see, you do not need to be convinced of anything further, my son. You need confidence and certainty. Certainty comes from within. Talawan continued. Enough proof. Would you like to improve your certainty in the creation of illusions? Sure, Walter said. Good. And close your eyes. Envision a bar of gold. Do you see it? Well, sort of, but it's vague, Walter responded. All right, concentrate to make it feel more solid. Can you do that? Yes, Walter replied. Very good. Next, make it feel cold and heavy. Now, here's the question. Can you perceive it or experience it to some degree? Pretty well, Walter said. Good. Then it's real. It exists. Remember, you cannot experience something that doesn't exist. But it must be an illusion because other people can't see it. Only I can, Walter insisted. Certainty, my son, certainty. That's the only reason others can't see your illusion. And that's the only difference between you and me. Practice and certainty. Talawanda signals, first of all, to return to his seat. Well, my friends, that concludes this evening's performance, Talawanda informed his pupils. I thought you were going to do one more miracle, a member of the audience begged. My friend, if I have you absorbed half of what I told you tonight, then a miracle has occurred. However, I have a very special surprise for you this evening. Many of you are wondering how I do my illusions. In case you haven't figured it out yet, I'll explain it again in a different way. Unlike your conventional magic, I do not come equipped with props and devices. I require only myself to create anything imaginable. What you do with props and trickery, I accomplish with ideas and illusions brought to life by my certainty. That's my secret, certainty. If you want to be free, then become certain that your illusions are real. Create illusions every day. It does not matter how weak or vague they are at first. Just continue to practice, and soon the chains of doubt and uncertainty which bind you to this universe will vanish forever. On that day, you'll be fully awake once more. You shall be free, for you'll know the truth, that everything you once thought to be so overpowering was just another dream. Thank you very much. Good night. Talawanda turned and walked backstage. The audience rose to his feet in final salute. The applause was deafening. Walter smiled and asked, Well, what do you think of Talawanda? Well, that was all I could see and think all the way home.